Welcome to another Trident Workbench feature demonstration. Today we are going to talk about data extraction from the Trident Workbench. As most of you are aware, the Trident Workbench suite provides several methods to gather, aggregate, and report on data. But what if you simply need to extract some data for a vendor? Or perhaps you want to extract some data into Excel or Jump to do some detailed analysis outside the system. Fortunately, the Trident Workbench suite has multiple methods for achieving this. But today I'm going to focus on the KPI Extract Builder tool and how that is the Swiss Army knife of data extraction tools within the system. Before I begin discussing the Extract Builder, however, let's first touch on a couple other methods you can use to extract data within the system. The simplest method to extract data is to simply extract existing reports within the system. So for example, you could take your Trident Complete Firm Extract report, or you could take any of your KPI standard reports, and all of those reports have basically this save capability which allows you to save and export that data into Excel. The next alternate method for extracting data in the Trident Workbench is to go to the KPI system and choose underneath the Analysis menu KPI Trending. This screen allows you to take multiple different data points defined within the KPI system, drop them onto a trend, and not only trend them, but at the bottom of the screen you can actually choose Export, Data to Excel, and you can export that to Excel. The third alternate form within the Trident Workbench for extracting data can be found under the Lab module. If you go into the Lab system and choose Reports, underneath there you're going to find a menu choice for Generic Form Extract. This particular screen allows you to extract every single form piece of data that has been gathered within the system. So for example, under your cook form, if you wanted to extract all the core cook information, you would have the choice underneath the export process to export the core cook information. You can run that extract and that data would be available for you to export and analyze externally outside the system. Now that we've discussed three alternate ways to extract data from the Trident Workbench, let's get to the core of the discussion and talk about the KPI Extract Builder. One of the biggest benefits of this screen is it actually allows you to merge data across the lab, KPI, and DCS into a single extract. One of the biggest benefits of it is you can actually save those extracts to pull them up again in the future. So with that, let's jump into the presentation. Alright, so let's get to the exciting part of the presentation. In this case, we're going to log into the Trident Workbench. From there, once we get to the main screen, we'll go up to the waffle in the upper left-hand corner and choose KPI module. When the KPI module loads, you'll see across the top your menu choices, and we're going to choose Analysis and go to Extract Builder. One of the nice things about the Extract Builder is it allows you to save previously defined extracts and reuse them. So in this case, to start the presentation, I'm going to reload an existing one just so I can talk about the features within the Extract Builder itself. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see that you set your date ranges. So the way we have this extract defined today is pulling the last 5 days, or from February 1st to February 6th worth of data, and we're pulling that data in 1 hour increments. The data we're pulling is what we've defined here in the tag extract, and this particular extract has extract definitions for the DCS and the KPI module. In this scenario, I can click Run Extract, and that will pull the data up onto the screen for me to review. So now I can actually see the data in those 1 hour increments across the board from February 1st through the 6th. One of the things to note is when you click Run Extract, it pulls that data to the screen, but there's not much you can do except just look at it. So one of the things I recommend, because pulling the data into the web browser can be costly, you don't want to set that time frame that you're pulling that data to a very large time frame. When you run the extract on the screen to look at the data, you want to be much more focused. But if you wanted to export larger amounts of data, or you want to get the data out of the system, that's where you go to Export to Excel. Because it doesn't have to load it into web browser, it's much less costly, so you can increase that time frame, but I still would recommend only going a month or two at most to pull data at a time. Basically, after I click Export Data, it loads that data into Excel, and now that data is available. Each of my columns shows my tag and the associated data points for each hour as we defined within that extract. And that's kind of how the extract process works. So for the fun of it, let's create a new one. real time here and run that extract and just build that out. So we'll start out by clicking new, which will create a new extract or template for us. And in this scenario, I am interested primarily in a lot of slurry detail. So for example, I'm going to go to the lab and I'm going to look for slurry pH, which we gather on the cook form. So I'm going to add that to the extract. I'll also add slurry solids. Again, I'm going to pull that off the cook form. One of the things you'll notice is there'll be this drop down here with different functionality associated to it. And primarily when you pull from the lab, we're pulling the lab link data. But when we switch here, let's throw some DCS data fields in here so we can look at the different options here. In this case, let's just pull in the slurry tank levels just so that we have some information from the DCS. And I'll do the other slurry tank. And you'll see I have the option here to choose like the current value, the at 1 hour average, delta change. So if I happen to pull in a tag that's a totalizer, I can see what happened every hour, maximum, minimum. But in this case, because we're pulling levels, we'll leave this at level. But we'll throw a few more in here that aren't that way. Let's pull in a combined slurry feed. Oops, I wanted to actually pull in slurry feed from the KPI system. So I know in here I have a combined gallons per minute for the day. And I can spit that information out. I can do it daily or interval. Within the KPI system, you're aware that dailies are gathered once a day. Interval is gathered on smaller intervals depending on how you define that KPI. In this case, let's jump back to the DCS and we'll go and do some beer column feeds so we can do something other than level. So we'll do beer column feed 1 and 2 because we have 2 sides to our plant. I'll set these to average so they'll give me 1 hour averages. Let's go in and add one more lab item. Let's pull something else off the cook form. Let's try caustics, which is coming from a different section on that same form. Lab linked, and we can finish off with a KPI for the beer column feed. Beer feed, and in this case I'm going to use the gallons per minute. All right, so with that I built kind of the extract. I added my data points. Let's switch this to interval so I can get the 5-minute data, and we can click run extract, and that will actually build out the extract based off the definition that we provided. Oh shoot, we wanted to go through because I don't have any sample data for the 30th on my cook form. Let's just switch that to the 1st, and now you can see that the sample data that I've entered within the cook form now pulls up from the lab system. So you can see we pull every 2 hours, the cook information is entered. Across from that we have our tank levels associated to the slurry tanks. We have our slurry combined gallons per minute gathered, looks like once a day, across each of my beer feeds, my combined beer feed, and then we also have our caustic information over here as well. So that's kind of how to build the extract without having to go through multiple different systems and merging that back into Excel, because now that system has done it for us. Once we have that definition in place, we simply click Export to Excel, click OK, and now you can see that data will be pulled over into a single extract across the same timeline. So in this case, you can see my cook information, my CIP information for caustics, combined KPI system. So we actually have lab, DCS, KPI, DCS, lab, KPI. So now we've extracted that data into a format that allows us to merge all of that together in one spot. And one of the nice things, as I said before, we can actually save this and reuse it again in the future. So if I switch to our tank test, there's that detail. We can go back to this reuse, and there's that definition we just built, and I can rerun that export. So hopefully that gives you a good understanding of how the KPI Extract Builder works, and from there you'll be able to extract all the data points within the lab system into a single export format and a single file across multiple different platforms. Hopefully you found today's presentation to be helpful, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a nice day.